Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for Nerds by Nerds, and today I'm hanging out with Adam Bradford. How are you today, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
And in case anyone doesn't know, Adam Bradford is works over there on D&D Beyond, putting things together, making cool stuff for us to use in our games. And a while back, I saw that you guys were starting to do a lot more content creation. You already were kicking out a lot of cool stuff with Todd Kenrick over on YouTube, and now you guys are also moving into print and putting up articles on the website.
Yeah, it's really exciting for us. We saw that we had this opportunity, especially with the video content with Todd. It was really early on we could tell that Dungeon Life was doing some good things, and so I actually approached Todd. I said, "Hey, you want to come do that full time?" And he did, and it's gone really, really well. The community response has been incredible, and we saw that it really resonated with the community to be able to not just interview Mike and Jeremy, but even some of the community stuff we've had has been just incredibly engaging. And for us, the great thing about it is we don't have the need for to monetize that part of the business, but because obviously what we're doing with the website is able to sustain us well. So it really is kind of this service we can provide, and we've been really, really happy and fortunate to be able to do that. So doing that with the video content, it was this natural evolution that we just said, hey, there are some people out there writing incredible things that I want to read continually, but then sometimes it's difficult to find that stuff. Sometimes it's spread out all over the place. Sometimes it's difficult to maybe have the focus and the time to do so. And so we said, hey, what about getting some of that written content onto D&D Beyond as well, and have this become really a destination, a place for people to want to come, at least on a daily basis, because that new content is constantly coming in. And then, yeah, if they're prepping for a session, they can be right there also and go ahead and prep for that session. Or if they're playing, they can pull up their characters or whatever. But yeah, the content has been something really exciting for us. And of course, we've got this great batch of writers that are working with us right now.
Yeah, as someone who also creates content on multiple platforms, for us, one of the things that we don't actually talk about that much, but thinking about D&D Beyond and what you guys are doing over there, kind of made me think about it a little bit. Is it gives us a chance to have other voices, and have many more voices than just like Nerdarchy. So, with you guys branching out to the articles, you're going to also have that ability as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And for this first pass, of course, we've got James Haeck as our lead writer, and he's doing a great job. I think his first article really inspired, which is exactly what we intended for it to do, was talking about the Beastmaster Ranger. And so we got the community talking, we got the community engaged, and we saw just a ton of response to that. And we saw a lot of arguments for and against, and the article is actually trying to take a pretty neutral stance, between the different viewpoints, but the community engaged, and we're already seeing a good bit of that with the content, and that's exactly what we want. We want that conversation, the discussion to go on out in the community. And then, of course, we're working with James Introcaso, who is the word that always comes to mind when I think about him is prolific. I mean, the guy is just writing so much. He is involved in very exciting things that I can't even talk about yet, but the guy is prolific, and being able to have him come in and talk about, hey, here's how you could design a background, here's how you could design a feat. I think is tomorrow. I might be jumping ahead there a little bit, but he's talking about the different types of mechanics, and how can you create homebrew versions of these things. How do you think about these things? It's really, really helpful, and especially from someone that has written so much good content like him. And then finally, Mike Shea, who is Sly Flourish, who is the Lazy Dungeon Master. I've been reading him for years, and he is actually, I've been doing this 22 years, I guess, at this point, and I would consider myself a fairly experienced dungeon master. And I remember finding him a few years ago, and it just immediately helped my game already. And so I've been, looking at his stuff for a long time. And then as soon as we had this opportunity, it's like, I've got to get Mike on here also to talk about this. And of course, he's doing a series on how to get started dungeon mastering, because I think we all know that the DM role is a very essential role for Dungeons and Dragons. The game would not be played without that DM. And so we really are concerned about getting more and more people to step into the deep end of dungeon mastering. And I think that this series by Mike is a great place to start with that.
One, I want to thank you guys for including one of our videos in that first article. That was a nice surprise when we opened that up and checked it out.
Yeah, that was when I saw that James did that. I think I went on to our Slack channel and just gave the thumbs up. I was like, well done, James. I like this. These Nerdarchy guys are great. So yeah, we'll continue to do that. Obviously, you guys have done some great work. I constantly talk about even how I was exposed to you guys several years ago before any of this DDB stuff even took off, and always appreciate the perspective that you guys have. So we'll continue to lean on that.
I got to play I actually played my first Beastmaster Ranger this weekend at the convention we were at. We did a pickup game, and I want to say, like, one of the great things about going to conventions now is I leave my books at home. Even when we go to play at our game table, I don't bring my books. I just have a device or something.
Yeah, it's so easy to do that. I flew out to Seattle last week. Lots of secret cabal meetings and everything, but it was a lot of fun. And I used to try to bring books with me, but I try to pack so lightly because I hate checking bags. So even if I go out there for 4 days, I have the backpack. I mean, the thing is about to just burst, but that's all I carry with me. And so D&D Beyond and being able to have all of that digital, it has definitely helped a great deal with that.
And also, it's worth mentioning that the beta app is out for on Google and iOS. So if you guys want to check that out, you can download that. The full functionality isn't there yet, but you do have the app with the reader, which is very cool.
Yeah, and I think that there's been some confusion about that in a market as saturated as the world is today, and as hard as it is to get the word out about a variety of things. With our mobile app, we really decided early on that we saw that, especially from a mobile perspective, that D&D did not have something like this e-reader. We did not have these books available on Kindle or anything like that. And that part's not changing. And so we wanted to fill a gap very intentionally for, hey, this e-reader market for people that might like to just, read this on the airplane or read this at night before they go to bed. So that is the first part of what we've done. And I think that you can see in the interface and a lot of the things going on with that it really is a nice, convenient experience for just consuming the content of the books themselves. We'll start to see some of the improvements that we're already seeing in the mobile app make their way to the website kind of over time as well. But then beyond that, we definitely are adding spells, magic items, monsters, listings. All of that type of content is going to come into the mobile app next. And then we're in the middle of a huge, this is so much work that's going on right now. And I'm seeing it every day. And it's kind of hard for me to look at the current character sheet anymore. I kind of, want to throw up in my mouth a little bit every time I see the current one. But the new character sheet revamp is just this incredible thing. And so we're working on that. And there was no way on the mobile app that we wanted to go through all that effort of getting the current sheet into the mobile app when we would just have to turn around and then change that out, very quickly after that. So we're going to let the dust settle on this, really huge amount of effort that's going on with the character sheet. And then we're going to start after that, putting that into the mobile app as well.
It's funny you should mention that, because Portal Jacker, before we even started, first question, character sheet redesign release date. And if I've learned anything from the several times I have had you on, is you do not do dates.
Yeah, we don't do dates. Everything for us is very directional, and so we are happy when very solid progress is being made. So even from a product management perspective, and when you're working with the team, and we really do use an agile approach. So we have sprints, we have these development sprints, we have a backlog that we're working from, and so we are looking at velocity and how fast are we actually moving down that path. I can reveal, I'm very comfortable revealing that we know this will happen without any doubt. We know this will happen Q2 at the latest. But again, those are just really, really big buckets of targets that we're looking at. And so it won't be too bad, too much longer, but no actual dates, because all that can happen there is disappointment. So that's the reason that we don't share those things.
Absolutely. So Jay Rome, clearly someone who follows you. Do we get a word of the day? David says new content is pretty solid. So
yeah, that's good. No word of the day on this one, because I wouldn't put Dave from Nerdarchy through that. That's pandemonium when that happens on our dev update streams. But yeah, I really like giving things away. So Dave, if you want to somehow randomly select someone at some point during the stream, we will give away a legendary bundle.
All right, we will randomly pick someone towards the end of the stream.
Sounds good.
With our super scientific method here over on Nerdarchy.
Yeah, the scroll wheel.
The scroll wheel up and down. Mark Ross wants to know, when is UA material arriving to D&D Beyond? You guys are just doing what gets released forward. You're not doing the backlog, right?
Yeah, well, that's a little bit of a complicated answer, but I'm going to try to unpack here. So Wizards of the Coast, very rightly so, are very concerned about game integrity, which has been a really great thing about 5th edition in general. We don't have products flooding the market on a monthly basis, and hard to keep up with financially, but then also hard to keep up with from a rules perspective. So that's not actually happening with this edition. And so one of the things that they are very concerned about is making sure that we don't have mechanics floating out there that are not solid mechanics, that are not tested, that are not, really tried and true mechanics that are going to stick around with the game. So for some of the very, very old Unearthed Arcana material, there are some pretty strong indications that some of that stuff's not going to get used even in the future. Now, again, I'm not saying anything specifically. I mean, there can be elements that will be used and resurrected in the future. But a big part of what we're trying to do with Unearthed Arcana is we have introduced the starting with January, we introduced Unearthed Arcana content, which pertained to characters. So the Circle of Spores, Druid, we had the Brute Fighter, which that one's worth quite a discussion, I think. And then what was the other one? It was the School. I don't remember it because I don't like it at all. But the School of Invention Wizard. So all of those were, part of Unearthed Arcana content. We incorporated those into the tool set. We will continue. I know what Marches is, and it doesn't look like we're going to have anything to do with Marches. But as they introduce actual character-facing components, we will be incorporating those going forward for that playtest net to be cast a little wider. So that really is the intent of that. Now, having said that, we do have homebrew systems in place that we do fully expect to use going forward. So Homebrew Sub Classes are in progress right now. As those are completed, we are going to provide another bucket of content that's not going to be Unearthed Arcana content. It will be something like archived playtest content. And so as that comes, that is going to be used as just if they want to play a Warforged or whatever it is, people can go and at least start at that homebrew race, and they can use that in their games if they are using some of that very old UA content. So we do plan to incorporate that over the next few months with not huge priority, but we're going to try to do that for convenience purposes.
So with that, with everything you guys are working on, like how many projects within DDB do you guys tackle at a time? Like, I know you want to get the character sheet wrapped up. You're talking about the homebrew stuff and being able to do subclasses and things of that nature.
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. So I can tell you at this point in time that we have, let me think this through. We have we have 5 development resources. Am I saying that right? Yeah, 5 development resources that are working on DDB. And at this point in time, 2 of those resources, we have a back-end developer and a front-end developer that are working and that are doing the heavy lifting with everything that's going on with the character sheet revamp. So we have them working, not necessarily in a silo, but they're on a track by themselves that they're working on the character sheet revamp. And they are, highly specialized to work on that. And then we have 2 mobile focused developers that have done everything that you saw that has been released with this e-reader app. I want to say that we started that back in November. So, I mean, they've come in just an incredibly long way in a very short amount of time. And so they're working on mobile. And then we have another back-end developer that is trying to do a lot of the quality of life stuff on the website, as well as helping with the mobile team. And so we are trying to hire another front-end developer right now. We badly need that. So if you are in front-end development out there, if you know CSS, HTML, all of that, by all means, curse.com/careers, go out there and apply, because we are looking for the right person. We're looking for somebody that's very passionate about Dungeons and Dragons. We're looking for someone that is really skilled as well in all of that. So if that fits the bill for you, please apply. We would love to talk to you. So we're looking for that other front-end dev that can help us do a lot of that quality of life stuff going forward. So to kind of come back to the original question, I gave you a breakdown of the team. We've got the character sheet revamp going on right now. They're working on that full time because they're in a separate track. We've got the mobile listings and compendium content, which is essentially the spells, magic items, monsters, all of that. That is just kicking off tomorrow, actually. And then we've got homebrew subclasses that are in the middle of that right now. And then after homebrew subclasses, I believe that dev is going to work a little bit on source management, which is whitelisting and blacklisting some of the different sources to make sure that your source +1 is viable for Adventures League play, but then also that a dungeon master can restrict certain types of sources from his or her campaign if they want to do that. So those are kind of the quality of life things. So we have this major track going on with character sheet revamp. We try to do as many quality of life things we can do in parallel. And then we have the separate mobile track at this point too.
So are you the person that has to keep track of all that?
Yeah, I do all the product management on all of that. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and there are a lot of the good thing about it is I've been in environments in the past. I used to work in defense and aerospace for a decade, I guess, before I got to come and talk about D&D every day. So this is definitely a dream for me. But in my former life, I used to have so many projects going on, and it was a constant struggle to try to figure out what the roadmap actually was for the different products I was working on. The great thing about D&D Beyond is we don't have that problem at all. I could literally tell you what we would be doing 3 years from now. And so it's really kind of liberating to be able to know exactly what the vision for the product is, and how it's going to shape up in a year and 2 years and 3 years and even beyond that. And so that part is really, really good. So when it comes to prioritization and exactly what we're working on at any given time, it makes keeping track of all that so much easier. Now, sometimes that does subtly shift with community feedback. I mean, we'll definitely prioritize something that was maybe, further down the list up if the community is really asking for it. And there have been several times that's already happened. But the full list, everything that we know that we want to do, there really hasn't been anything that's come up from community feedback yet that we haven't already had on that list. Because, again, at the outset of this stuff, we want this to be comprehensive, to cover all the gaps, to cover all the bases that people need to supplement playing Dungeons and Dragons. And so, yeah, keeping up with it is not too bad, considering that the vision is really clearly articulated.
So we have a few questions coming in. Rubio2333, any plans to make optional rules in the DMG appear on the character sheet? Example, plot points, honors and ability score, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, it's definitely on the list. It really is a matter of priority. So much of this stuff is going to be a matter of priority, but essentially, the core of most D&D players, so 90+% of D&D players, do not use those optional rules, and so we have to take that into consideration. But having said that, yes, I definitely want to introduce honor and sanity. I want to introduce spell points, really any of those optional elements that live in the DMG we would want to introduce over time, as well as anything that we see in any of these future products that are optional like that. So the answer is yes. No idea of when we're going to be able to do that yet.
Imagine you have to get your character sheet straightened away first. Although, as much as you hate it, I have no problem using it. Like, I guess I'm indifferent to it. When I see the new one, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, see, I mean, I liked it decently before. It was never a final state. I mean, that was another thing that we had to do that, I'll set the record straight right here on Nerdarchy today. But really, for us, we knew that no matter what we did with the character builder and the character sheet, that it was not going to be what it needed to be the first time we released it. We knew this. And so we made a decision between taking an additional 6 months to perfect it as we would have thought it was perfected. We knew that was folly, though, because when we're isolated and we don't have thousands and hundreds of thousands of people providing feedback, we knew that we would spend that extra time, and then we would still have to come back and spend this time replying and responding and reacting to that feedback. And so for us, we tried to take this extremely broad stroke with the first pass of the builder and the character sheet, get that out there for people to start using and to start being able to give us real world feedback. And so again, I think I just told Wizards of the Coast when I met with them last week that I have personally read over 500,000. I did some queries in our database, but I've personally read over 500,000 forum posts about just the character sheet itself. And so that is a ton. That's a huge sample size of feedback for people that are using this. And so using that feedback, we have taken that and really made something, again, that I think is really special. And the thing that I am most excited about is that it has this familiarity. I mean, I keep using neo retro term or ancient future or something like that, but it looks like a character sheet has for 40 plus years, but then we are just layering on top of that the convenience of modern digital outputs. And so again, really, really exciting about the direction that's headed. We never would have been able to get here, though, if we had not received millions of points of feedback all along the way. And so that's the thing that's going to make this truly special is the community engaging with it. And I'm really glad, like, I think it was the right decision that, even with some of the criticisms of the character builder and the character sheet out there, I get those criticisms. I understand them. We expected those to come. I think it would have been even worse if we had taken 3 to 6 additional months to try to polish that even more place. And we thought it would be better to get some coal out there and then let people, interact with that and decide what a diamond actually looked like. And then let's go back and make a diamond.
Will there be a place for my beast companion on the new character sheet?
Oh, that's a popular question. The answer is yes. Yes, we will absolutely have that. We're going to, at least over time, I'm trying to remember exactly where, because again, I work with this every day, and I'm trying to remember where the scope kind of ends for the initial release of the character sheet. So my saying that should indicate to you that whether it is there in the very initial release or shortly thereafter, like it's definitely going to be in there. But essentially, we'll have spaces for companions, mounts. You'll be able to druid wild shape eventually. All of that will definitely be in there. Another thing that the character sheet is doing that's really important is it is allowing for, we started out of the gate trying to adhere to the rules and the rule set. And that's just not the way that a lot of people play D&D. I mean, a lot of dungeon masters out there love feats. They're giving multiple feats to characters at different points in their progression outside of ability score increases. And so with all of that, we are allowing ad hoc feats to be awarded, proficiencies and custom skills. All of that you'll be able to do as part of the new sheet as well.
Yeah, I want to say as a GM running at a convention this past weekend, and we wanted to supply pre-gens, and D&D Beyond made that so much easier. You're able to go into random, select your level, push a button, maybe tweak a few things, maybe fix some things where D&D Beyond goes a little crazy.
But, well, I'm telling you, randomized, and I'm going to put a pin in that because I'm going to be asking you a question in a second. But the randomized legitimately is random, like 100% random. It creates some terrible characters at times. And the interesting thing about that is we heard from the community that people really seem to like that, and I think it's maybe because they're playing some kind of shotgun characters, that they sit down for one shot and they just hit randomize, and then it's like whatever you get is what you have to play that night. So that sounds like a fun game, but we do have the quick build capability that only does first level characters right now. We have every intention of going back and allowing you to quick build at every single level all the way up to 20. And if you did that, then obviously you would get a very optimized character. We would have, the optimized choices, or at least, 75% optimized choices kind of all along the way. So that is also on the roadmap. We will include that at some point. So getting back, kind of turning this around and asking Dave a question. So you guys were guests at a convention this last weekend. Share with everybody how that went.
Cleveland Concoction was a lot of fun. It's a smaller con, like 500 to 700 people, and it was great. We got to run a couple panels. We got to play some games. It was in Ohio, where we actually have a few people that work with Nerdarchy, so we were able to all get together. So every night we were playing D&D, and again, we just did what you said. Essentially, we came up with random characters that we played through those games with, So that was that. That was great. Got to go to I guess concert seems a bit large for what it was, but the Harp Twins. I don't know if you've seen them or heard of them.
No, I haven't.
They're great. They play electric harps. They're twins, and they play like rock and heavy metal.
Oh wow!
And then they also did things like the Doctor Who theme song and stuff from Skyrim. And
very nice.
So
that sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, it was definitely a lot of fun.
So one more question for me. I guested with you on Savor Dice. It's been, I guess, a couple of months ago, 3 months ago maybe. And when I left, everything was just going incredibly perfectly. I mean, we just a flawless mission. And then all of a sudden I see all over the socials that everyone has died. So can you please fill me in on what on earth happened?
Okay, so officially Worm has not died. We faded to black beforehand, but it was very much like a scene out of Casino. So, this particular person we had been hunting for, Needles, had kind of become our nemesis. And she showed up when we launched like our main attack. So we had plenty of time to run away and succeed in the mission, but we so hated Needles so much. We just one more round and we'll kill her, it'll be done, then we'll run away. And we said that for about 3 rounds. We did kill her. I did run away, but everyone else did not make it. But then I got picked up. From the crime boss we had been kind of working for, but from a couple of his guys. So we had kind of like set him up to be a lord. We got him a lordship, and he's like, "You guys are the only ones that know anything that actually happened. So we're gonna have to fix this." And then we faded to black.
Nice. So TPK.
Oh yeah, and completely not planned like that. But early on, when we started those games, we decided like what kind of style game we wanted to run, and we wanted it to be real D&D. And sometimes your character dies. Like that's the running joke. If you die, you have to buy new character art.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So things get serious.
Really How about that?
So we had a Twitch question come in, and it just jumped on me, and I lost it. And he wanted to know. I think it was Aragon. Son of a bitch, lost it. It was a good question, though, Aragon. So if you ask it again, put question in front of it. Makes it a little bit easier for us to find them. Right now, we are streaming to Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. So there's a lot of comments coming in.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Seems like somebody would have some kind of chat aggregator.
There is. So like they're all coming in at once.
Okay.
Here's a question about the app from Michael. Can we use the Windows 10 app for offline use? A lot of people are buying Windows Surface machines and use them at conventions or the table.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we've got to be careful about statements like "lot of people." So yeah. I mean, obviously that is a kind of a relative thing, right? And so for us, and based on what we see with the data of our user base and everything else, it has not been something to this point that we would be able to prioritize. Even from the simple fact that I shared with you, we've got about 5 developers right now. And in order to support something like that, at a minimum, we would have to bring in another 1 or 2. And if I'm bringing in another 1 or 2 developers, they're probably working on getting us further down the roadmap that we really want to see. So, I know that's not what people like to hear, but I don't mind being transparent about it, that at this point in time, we do not perceive enough demand out in the community for us to be able to dedicate development resources to that. Now, just like you're doing right now, you're bringing it up as a data point. If there are millions of you out there that want this to happen, then we'll continue to pay attention to that. And I encourage you to bring it up, because otherwise we're not going to see that data shift in order to change our minds about any of that until we see, more and more people bringing that up.
Now, I didn't find the actual comment, but I remember the gist of Agrinian. It's a comment, and it was, you know, he wanted to know about third-party material being brought on to D&D Beyond. You know, we've got the Blood Hunter now, so we've broken down one barrier.
I've broken down one barrier. I like it. Yeah, so we're working on that. And I don't think that it would be terribly surprising to start seeing more of that content become available this year. But nothing I can actually confirm or say on that front yet.
Now, I've talked to enough third-party publishers to know there's interest. They definitely want to be there. But, yeah, you know, I'm sure, but there's a lot of companies means a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts. You know, another thing that from our perspective, being the official digital tool set for D&D, and, you know, D&D's in our name, we just have to be very cautious, you know. So even if it does happen, I imagine it would be in a highly curated fashion. And so again, I do think that it would not surprise me if you know, folks started seeing that this year. We've just got to be really careful the way that we go about it. And there is a lot of complexity, as you're saying, a lot of moving parts, you know, to that. But another thing that we do think that we will be able to see in the relative future, and I've just received a little bit of confirmation on this, we do get questions all the time about DM's Guild content. And in particular, a lot of the Adventures League adventures that are out there. There are so many of those. They're a great resource. Those are some things that we are going to start digitizing in the near future. So, you know, looking forward to being able to offer that content as well.
When you say digitizing, I can't help but think of the DC animated Superman, where Brainiac attacks and starts digitizing the world.
That's it. I mean, I wish that we had Brainiac to do all that for us, because it would be a whole lot easier than just taking a flat PDF or InDesign file and making it into this content. That's one of my favorite things that I see all over the internet, especially in the early days. I think that a lot of education has kind of gotten out there now. And then, you know, not only that, but I think the community is starting to see the value of what DDB is providing. But, you know, it was like, hey, this isn't hard for them to just take content from one, you know, electronic file and put it into their system. And I wish that I could get some of those people and hire them for a day and tell them, like, hey, take this player's handbook and make it into this content that we end up using in this database and on this website, because it's really, really difficult. Wizards of the Coast does a great job of making books. I mean, these books for 5th edition are beautiful. And I am, you know, the product director for a digital tool set, and I am still a person that's going to buy these books because I love the physical books. I think they're just works of art. But taking those, even the electronic file that printed that book in the first place, and then making that fit a format that we can actually use on the website is a really painstaking process, because Wizards didn't make it, you know, with that in mind. They made it thinking that they were printing a book. And so, you know, that part is a little more painful than I'd like it to be. So yeah, I wish that Brainiac could just take all of that and do his thing and run his little chords and everything and just make it happen. But unfortunately, it takes somebody whacking away at a keyboard.
So for anyone just joining us, we will be using a highly advanced method of giving away a legendary bundle at some point. But we're going to do that towards the end of the hour. Let's see, we got James Leslie. Will there be an export option for homebrew creation to put them to PDF for playing offline? I'd also seen a similar question about taking your characters, you know, down from D&D Beyond and being able to import them later as well.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd like to dig in on that second one a little bit and probably understand more about it. But as far as the first question, with, you know, PDF export for homebrew content, I think it's a phenomenal idea, and it's actually an idea that we're not. It is on our list, kind of like I told you before. Virtually everything's on our list. You know, I've played the game for a long time. We we talk about this on a daily basis, minute by minute basis. And so we have a gigantic list. So it's very rare that something actually surprises me and I say, oh, we should add that to the list. So that PDF export is on the list. It's way down the list right now because we actually haven't heard too much of a request for that to happen. But I love it and I love the idea. And so, if we start to see more and more demand for that, I imagine that can get prioritized a little bit. I think that it's a great idea and it would be very, very useful. As for the next part of that I guess I would need to understand the use case for wanting to download, export out the character to be able to export them back in. What's happening to that character out in the ether before it comes back in. So that's the part I guess I would need to understand, because otherwise, if nothing's really changing, then there's not a lot of point. It can just live on DDB, right? So I'm not sure if you've got more context about that, but
I do not. And not only that too, once it becomes part of the app, I don't see a reason for it. You could just use it from the app, unless they're just people that just want paper at the table, and the only possible application I could see is we do not do devices or electronics at the table, period. And at that point, like, to me, it doesn't seem like D&D Beyond is for you, like, if that's the style that you play.
Yeah, potentially. And so, obviously if we're getting into that point, we're getting into like OCR type technology to try to read something off a handwritten character sheet. That is an entirely different ball game that carries with it a ton of challenges that I'm not sure if we would be able to overcome, especially in the short term. But yeah, I think that as far as just exporting in general, part of this character sheet revamp, one of the most important parts, as far as I'm concerned, is the PDF export right now is, I'll just go ahead and say it, it's garbage. Like, it definitely spits out what is on the character sheet, but it's not giving you any actual information needed to play the game. And so we are rectifying that for sure. And so you'll see when the PDF export generates, you'll see that it actually has short descriptions for the different abilities. They're not going to just be names listed there anymore. You'll see information about the spells listed. A lot of changes coming for the PDF. We're really excited about that. So people that do want to create a character in DDB and then export that character to use it via PDF at the table are going to really, really like and enjoy everything that's happening when this revamp goes live.
So, yeah, so that pretty much covers that. And there's just so many questions, guys. I'm sorry. They've been chatting away. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, will Beyond D&D be making any map making software in the future?
Map making software. So, the answer to that currently is no. I'm gonna just say, like, map making software. No, there are no plans for that.
There is a whole slew of questions that are like along those lines of, are you guys going to be turning this into a virtual tabletop? Essentially, that's what it feels like they're asking. Oh, also like, webcam connectability for playing games online. So it's like all different like iterations of that.
So I can definitely address the VTT. So we, the litany that we put out there every time this question comes up is we have no current plans to create a VTT. So we'll leave it at that answer right now.
Fair enough. I'm sure the VTTs that are already out there are happy to hear that too.
Yeah, and we do want to partner with these guys, especially to allow people to create characters on DDB, export those characters into Fantasy Grounds Roll20. Those are things that are on the list, and those are on the list for this year. So we'll end up seeing that at some point later in 2018.
Yeah, we actually just this weekend we had a a Fantasy Ground user, at our table with us, gaming with us, and I just had added her to one of my campaigns so she could access D&D Beyond while we're playing, and she got started right away with making a character and using the interface, and she was really digging it as someone who is used to using an online interface for their characters. So, and was super excited when I said, yeah, there's a possibility that these could end up being an interface for the virtual tabletops that are already out there. So I did get more context to Michael's question about character sheets.
Okay.
He wants to keep my own database of D&D Beyond characters offline in a format I can import to D&D Beyond later.
Yeah. So, this is a little tougher for me to answer without getting into a whole lot of background and context discussion. But so from an API perspective and allowing people to connect into DDB data, we do have plans to make that happen. We have to be extremely cautious when that happens, because we have partnered very closely with Wizards of the Coast, and we have to make sure that any type of API that we provide along those lines, that it is as secure as we can possibly make it, to make sure that Wizards of the Coast and their content is protected. So it is a very large undertaking for us to do that. And when we're looking at that from the standpoint of prioritization between that and some of the other low-hanging fruit that we really want to get to, it's definitely further down the list. As far as what you're talking about there, the ability to export character data in some shape, form, or fashion, and then be able to re-import it, again, that falls on kind of a fringe part of the list. We have no current plans to do anything like that because we haven't seen the demand for it. If there is demand out there, I encourage you to go to our forums and ask for that, see if others are interested, and we can see about that.
So Kyle wants to know, no, that wasn't Kyle. He's got a different question. Michael's asking about Twitch integration.
Yeah, so we've got, so Twitch extension is going to happen this year as well. So I'm sure when we were in the early stages of talking about Twitch integration, Twitch extensions were not actually revealed to the public yet, but they have been at this point. And so Twitch extensions are something that our parent company has created, and they're really, really handy, very interesting things going on with these extensions. We have an incredible use case with Dungeons and Dragons and streaming Dungeons and Dragons that we are going to be exploring, and the wheels are certainly moving for that. I hope that I have more concrete information to share relatively soon, but know that work is happening for this, and it is going to really, this sounds pretty dramatic what I'm about to say, but it's going to change the way that D&D streaming is viewed. I mean, it's just going to flat out change it. Right now in Critical Role, those guys are great. We're partnered with them. And right now, if you want to see Knott's character statistics, you're going to have to wait until it cycles through in that little left corner square, and eventually it's going to happen. You definitely can't see that on demand. So with the Twitch extension, the great thing about that is you're going to be able to, on demand, hover over a nameplate and then see all that character information. You're going to be able to see hit points being updated. All of those things are really, really going to just change the level of interactivity that people have with D&D streams. I'm incredibly excited about it. I just don't have a lot more confirmation or details that I can share with you yet.
So I think Michael here is echoing probably other things that I'm kind of seeing in the chat. Is can you please let Adam know that DDB is awesome, and I appreciate the hard work the whole team is doing. Thanks,
Michael et al. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're This has been great. I remember we announced, what is today? Is today the
Today is the 12th.
Well, yeah. So I guess we announced a year ago, 2 days ago. I think it was March the 10th. And I remember really like, I don't think there were any actual death threats, but there was a great deal of bodily harm and all kinds of things that were kind of threatened our way. Public opinion was just in the toilet, to be honest, when we announced a year ago, because there was so much baggage that was coming into this, and so many false starts, and just so many problems trying to get something like this off the ground for 5th edition. And I hope that people are able to see at this point. We launched in August, so in the last 6-7 months, we have made a lot of progress. There's a whole lot more that I want to make. As I said, we've got plans for 3+ years down the road. That should tell you guys something, that we're not just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. We're not really just some kind of vapor that's going to disappear. We're in this for the long haul, as I've said from day one. And I'm really excited. A year from now, we are going to be in some really incredible places. I can't wait for everyone to see it. So I appreciate all the support from the community. Public opinion has changed dramatically, and I appreciate that. I appreciate everyone helping, trying to educate as to why you have to, quote, rebuy your books and all of that kind of stuff. I really do wish that there were some better solutions for that, but it is what it is currently. And you can just know that I'm constantly advocating for the community, for people to be able, we've got some potential solutions even this year that we're trying to work out with that kind of thing. So keep an eye on that. Know that we're fighting for you guys, and that we are trying to make this as good as it possibly can be. And we can't do that without your support. So we really do appreciate that support.
D&D Beyond has always been a tool that we've been behind and really enjoyed. It's no secret, Nerdarchy is D&D Beyond insiders, which we're greatly appreciative of. We were actually going to buy the Legendary Bundle when it was announced, and we were kind of on the fence as to whether to get it or not. Not because whether we wanted it or not, just because we had a lot of conventions we were doing right around the same time, and the expenses were pretty high. Yeah. So we're like, oh, can we do this, or do we have to wait? And and then we had reached out to you guys and talked to you guys, and you guys made us insiders, which was awesome. And other people will say, well, I use Fantasy Grounds or Roll20, and they're really great tools. But for us, it was actually more tools than we really needed or wanted, because we don't really use virtual tabletops. We're using them on our Saver Dice game now. But in our own games, mostly everything we do is theater of the mind. And we just like having the database. We like using that tool set. We like storing our characters over there. We like using it for research, for videos. There's all these great things that we're able to do with it. And when I run my games, I just have, I have D&D Beyond up in a bunch of different tabs open to things that I think I'm going to need. Or if I need to search something, I can grab it real quick. So for us, it was just a good fit.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be true for, and we see this is true for a lot of people out there that are using the tool set, that not everyone is using a VTT. In fact, the majority of people that are playing this game are not using a VTT. I know that, I see the numbers that both Fantasy Grounds and Roll20 put out for people that are playing and using which game systems and all that. And of course, D&D is, always very predominantly at the top of all that. But even with those numbers, having the inside information about how many people are actually playing Dungeons and Dragons out there, it would probably blow folks' minds. And it's kind of secret numbers, so we won't share that. But there are millions, I will say millions of people playing Dungeons and Dragons, and so the vast majority of those are not using virtual tabletops. And so we really have, especially here at the start, focused on trying to shore up some of the gaps that people might have. And the thing that I'm most proud of at this point, now I'm going to be pretty darn proud of this character sheet when it comes out. Very excited about that. But the thing that is the most polished for us right now is the compendium content, those listings, the filters, all of that. And as part of that, that's where we started. Everything started there. That's why it is further along than everything else. But it really was. It was, hey, I want to look this up quickly during my game. And I love it now. It never fails at the table. We use D&D Beyond, of course, in our office games. I've got an office game going right now that's actually been going on for a year and a half, I guess, at this point. Even when it was kind of the game that got DDB started. And so it's just a ludicrous campaign at this point. I think I talked to you about it before. I call it like the reign of Tiamat. Tiamat actually got loose, and she, layers in Waterdeep and all this stuff now. And it's just, post-apocalyptic, worst nightmare imaginable. And the characters are playing in that. And I love it when they are, just saying something like, I cast banishment, and they have a quick question about it, and it's almost a game now. Like, I can know everything about that spell in less than 10 seconds. And even flipping through a book, I'm pretty good at that too, because I've memorized most of where everything is. And it's still just when you get proficient with both of those, obviously the electronic format is going to win out when it comes to that speed. And so it's just so fast to have that information right at hand. And I love running an adventure. I do run a lot of these published adventures just from the standpoint of I like to immerse people in the lore of Dungeons and Dragons as well. Some of the best memories have been homebrew worlds that I've created over the years, but I really do like people to understand the realms, especially here in the office. And so we run that, and running those adventures from DDB with tooltips and with just how easy it is to find things on a page. All of that has really changed the game for me. I mean, it's made things even easier to run. And I already run really, really light. I talked to you about Sly Flourish earlier. I am an incredibly lazy dungeon master, and my players most of the time don't know that I'm just making stuff up. Like they have no idea. They think I've probably spent hours coming up with this stuff, and I'm just making it up on the fly. And D&D Beyond lets me improv in a way that I wasn't even able to before it came along.
Hover cards. I love hover cards.
Hover cards, I like that. We call them tooltips, but it's like hover cards. Pretty nice. We may start. We may change the name.
That has been like the biggest, because I used to use, I guess it was like D&D Insider that had some similar features, but they didn't have hover cards, and that's just great being able to scroll over something and get the information. You don't even have to leave the page. Right. So I definitely love that. We
are going to be doing that. So even if we don't have actual, hover cards coming up on the character sheet, we will in some places. But the way we've moved away from collapsibles, that's the thing that drives me probably the most crazy with the current character sheet, is you have to hit a plus, and then the information displays for you. We're using a sidebar now. So the sidebar is just going to kind of slide out from the edge of the screen. And if you're on a phone, it'll slide to cover, and then you can swipe it away. And so it makes all that information even easier to see at a glance. And it's the full information. Sometimes we can't fit the full information on the hover card there.
So Next Level 88 has a question, and then I think we'll probably give away a legendary bundle.
All right.
And we'll be past time by then. Any plans for a combat tracker that imports info directly from the monster manual?
Yes. Yeah, we're really excited about that one. So very, very high level. After character sheet revamp gets out, we're moving to do a little bit more work on the character builder. So we're calling it like a revamp as well. Primarily using the space better, providing some alternate flows. We've heard from people that nobody actually makes a character according to the player's handbook. Everybody does ability scores first, and that kind of stuff. So we're making a flow that is more conducive to that. And I agree with that, and I've agreed with that from the beginning. So we're going to get into that next. Then after that, we're going to get into really exciting things with encounter building. So you'll be able to, instead of having a lot of tabs open for monsters, You can put them all in one place. You can see the full encounter all on one page and in one place. And then we get into monster building. So really excited about that one. That's the thing where you can scale a mind flayer down because it's been away from the elder brain for too long. You can add a magic item and it will increase the suggested challenge of that monster. Once we have characters where we want it to be, monsters where we want them to be, then the next natural evolution is getting them together in combat tracking. And so that's definitely the path that we're going down. You're going to be able to have initiative. You'll be able to target creatures. We will eventually introduce the concept of temporary effects. All of that is part of that.
Excellent. With that, I guess we'll give away a legendary bundle. We're going to use our super scientific method here of scrolling up and down. And when Adam tells me to stop, I'll stop. And whoever I land on will be the one to receive the legendary bundle.
All right, we ready?
Yep, whenever you are.
Now.
We've got Jaden Storm Tracker. So Jaden, email me at nerdarchy@gmail.com. I think we're just going to need your Twitch username, and that is it. Don't give me anything crazy like your password or anything. Just a username.
Yeah.
And I'll get you hooked up with Adam and get you taken care of. So Jaden Storm Tracker, congrats.
Yep.
So that's really cool. Thank you, Adam. I really appreciate that when you come on here and you give stuff away, and I know they enjoy it as well.
Yeah, I would give it all away if I could, but somebody would probably fire me.
So yeah, somewhere, someplace, sometime, someone is going to have an issue with that. So, which is really cool. I guess we are past the hour mark. Again, I appreciate you coming on, Adam. I always have a great time talking to you, and hearing what's coming for D&D Beyond. All the cool stuff that I really want is never comes soon enough, though. We have to get all the player stuff out of the way first.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish we had a team 3 times the size and we would start cranking this stuff out. So I'm working on that. We're trying to get more and more team members. So if you know developers that love Dungeons and Dragons, always send them curse.com/careers. We're constantly looking to expand the team.
Cool. So guys, check that out. If you're looking for a job, maybe your next job can be working for Curse and working on D&D Beyond. That'd be a cool gig.
It would be. Trust me.
So until next time, stay nerdy.